An elderly man named John, 76 years old, lived alone in Manchester, England for quite some time. He has always been lonely, except for his mother. In a simple house in the suburbs, and since childhood, life was really harsh. His mother was an orphan, had no contact with her family, and had been abandoned pregnant by her husband. Since then, she had to support and care for herself and her son alone. Her name was Marina. She worked as a cleaning lady when she had time, and for the rest of the day, she did her best taking care of the house and her child. As a child, John studied in a public school, and he couldn't get along with the other children. Always ended up excluded or lonely amidst the playing and the kindergarten games, and so it was throughout his teens. He was a good boy at home, but due to kids' immaturity, he was always left out at school. When he turned 16, John started helping his mother with the bills, working at a car wash near home in his free time. Unfortunately, this ended up disrupting his studies, as he often had to skip classes to work and make next rent money. By then, John ended up skipping school for work and became an adult, increasingly isolated from the rest of the world. The only person he trusted, who welcomed, cared for, and accepted him was his mother, his best friend. When he reached the age of 78 years old, his mother died suddenly, leaving John inconsolable. His only friend, the only one who really loved him as he was, could no longer be by his side. John drowned in drinking, was fired, and lived only on the little his mother managed to leave him before she left. He became an extremely lonely man who had no interest in anything but sleeping, drinking, and eating the bare minimum to survive for a long time. A few months later, after a night of drinking, John was woken up by a noise coming from the living room. He was intrigued and decided to check on it. When he got there was nothing, and the noise had stopped. He fixed some coffee and again heard a noise at the door, as if something or someone was scratching it, trying to get in. John realized it was a dog and tried to scare it away. The dog ignored him, thought he was playing, and sprawled in the yard mud. John tried to scare him away by clapping his hands until the dog left. The next day, John had a bottle of drink in his hands when he heard the same noise as the day before at the living room door. He already knew who it was. It was that annoying dog, for sure, who wouldn't leave him alone. He looked out the window, and the dog was looking at him with sweet eyes, crying softly, as if asking for something politely. John looked at him and wondered where that dog could have come from. Thinking he might be hungry, he decided to leave home for the first time in a long time to buy food and at least feed the dog. He looked hungry. Back at home, John saw the puppy waiting in his backyard, as if it knew John was bringing him something. He got in and served a pot of feed. Quickly came the pet, which was very hungry indeed. John realized he was smiling as he looked at the lovely dog, something he hadn't done in a long time since his mother passed. His eyes filled with tears, and the dog stopped eating and approached John in a gesture of affection, as if trying to ease his pain. From that moment on, he never left the little dog and named it Nino in honor of his mother. Since then, John has changed completely. He started waking up early, excited to exercise, went out for walks with his new partner, and spent most of his day with Nino. He was the best friend John could have at the moment, the only one who managed to get him out of all of that loneliness and suffering without any effort. They spent a lot of time and had a lot of fun together, exploring the surroundings, playing and spending a part of the days in John's backyard. After a few years, on an ordinary day, John, who was already older, decided to go fishing with Nino in a lake near home. They spent a while, managed to catch some fish, and Nino was very happy as he always was when he went to the lake. Suddenly, John starts to feel sick and decides to hurry home. When he arrived, despite his comfort, he filled Nino's pot and cooked him a little dinner. The next morning, as usual, Nino waited for John to wake up by his bedroom door. It was all very silent, and the only sound to be heard was Nino's breathing. He continued to wait for his friend to come out the door to pet him. It was already getting dark, and Nino started to cry, scratching at the door as he did the first time he met John. He scratched it incessantly, but wouldn't get what he wanted. He slept from exhaustion and woke up the next day with the arrival of the postman. He barked and got the postman's attention. A short time later, he found that John had died in his sleep. The man called the rescue, who took John to the hospital, noting his death. When they returned to rescue the dog, he was lying on the same bed John had taken his last breath and looked like he was also in his final moments. Nino, left alone with John, both already elderly, managed to take the most of the friendship and love they could, becoming each other's greatest support. John passed away happy because he knew that he had never been actually alone, that he was, in fact, very lucky to have had all the love and affection from his mother and then from Nino. Exciting, huh, guys? There are several forms of love, and we must value those who accept us for who we are without judgment, as was John's mother and Nino, who, despite being a dog, welcomed him more than many of the people he met throughout his life.